everybody. I'm excited. Dr. Kiki Ramsey here, and you are watching the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. I am super excited again for you to be here today because we are talking about my favorite. My favorite topics. One of them, my favorite topics in the whole world, positive psychology, and how you can actually use it to change your own life. And positive psychology has literally been a force that and a tool that I've used throughout my life. And part of my life, I didn't even know I was using positive psychology. You might not realize you're using it as well, but it's been this tool that has really changed my entire life, and just the knowledge of it has helped me in so many ways in so many different situations. And so I'm super excited to be coming to you with this topic today so that we can have a little chat about positive psychology and how it can change your life. So right after this. Awesome. So if you are here joining me live, go ahead and drop your name and where you are tuning in from in the chat so I can see it. I love it every single week when you guys are here with me live, sharing in the conversation. So I love that. So thank you for that. So positive psychology. Let me just tell you about positive psychology. I literally found positive psychology when I was at a place in my life where I was kind of looking and trying to figure out the direction I wanted to take the rest of my life. And I'm like, positive psychology, what is that? Is that actually a thing, right? I think a lot of people have that question. And I consider myself a positive psychologist. And I'm going to tell you all what that means. And so I know when I'm in public or when I'm speaking and all of that, people are like, what's positive psychology? Is that even a thing? Like, people think that, oh, people are just, I just put the word positive in front of psychology. No, it's actually a scientific study. So positive psychology is actually the scientific study of what makes life worth living. Let me say it again. The scientific study of what makes life worth living. So let me just explain it to you this way. We're still in mental health awareness month. Only have a couple of days left, but a lot of focus is around deficits, right? Mental health. When we talk about mental health, when we talk about psychology, for the most part, we're talking about a deficit model. We're talking about diseases, depressions, anxiety, all those things that are deficits in our lives, like those things that don't make us happy. And those things that we're actually trying to get rid of. Well, if psychology is the norm, then the opposite is positive psychology, which means the study of happiness, resilience, grit, all these, terminology, you've heard of it before. Those are deeply rooted in positive psychology. And it is a study. So anything that's a scientific study means there's research that backs it. Because what positive psychology is saying really is let's focus more on your strengths versus your weaknesses. As a country, as a society, we're so apt to focusing on weaknesses. Everything we do, performance reviews, feedback, it's all focused on what can you do to change and to get better in these areas. Well, why not focus on your strengths just as much as you focus on your weaknesses? That's what positive psychology is saying. Now, there's a lot of talk about positive psychology being like, oh, this just, all they do is talk about happiness. All they do is that. Well, if you think about psychology, all psychology does is talk about weaknesses and disease and all that kind of stuff. There has to be a balance. There has to be an opposite. So positive psychology is not telling you to not talk about weaknesses. But what it is saying is, why don't we put as much onus on strengths as we do weaknesses? which is why when you come to my channel, you'll see so many things about positive psychology and positive attributes and positive sayings and positive affirmations. And just my stuff is rooted in strengths because we all show up every single day and we have strengths. You have strengths. I have strengths. Everybody has strengths. And what if we focus? What if you could actually wake up in the morning and you say, "Ooh, I am just going to go out there and use my strengths to the best of my ability and not really focus on all of the negative things that are in your life." How would life be for you? Probably so much better, because guess what? The negative is there. Those things are going to happen. Life is going to continue to happen. Life is going to bring us hard things. And how you combat those hard things, I believe, is with positive psychology, learning the science of happiness, learning how to create your own happiness. You might not can see my entire picture, but it's create your own happiness is what it says, because I feel like we can absolutely do that. So years and years and years ago, I was looking for a career transition, a pivot in my life. I was trying to figure out what my purpose in life was, what I was going to do with my career, if I was going to go back to school, because the thought of actually going back to school and get a PhD was something that I was toying with and wrestling with. And one day I came along this term called positive psychology, and I was like, what is this? And when I read about it being the scientific study of what goes right with you and the focus of your strengths, I was like, that's what I already do. So I made the decision to end up going back to school, and I got a master's in positive psychology coaching, because I knew I had already been coaching. Prior to that, I was a social worker. I have a master's in social work. And so I had already been using coaching as a tool to help my clients, because prior to that, I already started my business and I was speaking at conferences for organizations, and people were starting to ask me to help them more. And I didn't know what that was. And I really found out that that thing was coaching. So around the same time I began to find out what coaching was, positive psychology came into my life. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I finally made the decision to go back to school to get my another master's degree in positive psychology in order to not have to go back to school to get a PhD in psychology, right? It didn't work. It didn't work. But what it did do is it lit a fire, an absolute fire under me, because what I was learning was like, oh my God, like, you mean to tell me that you can study what goes right in people? You can study what makes people successful, what makes people thrive. You can study happiness? Like, what's better than studying happiness, y'all? Come on now. Like, seriously. So I went to work. I ended up putting both of those loves together, coaching and positive psychology. Shout out to Life University in Atlanta, Georgia. Whoop, whoop, my alma mater, which is where I got my master's in positive psychology coaching from. Hey, Diamond, thank you so much for joining. So that's where I got my master's in positive psychology from. And the rest is history. I've dedicated my entire career to really studying happiness, belonging, and resilience, right? Belonging has a lot to do with meaning and purpose. Happiness is just what it is. And resilience, I think that I embody what resilience is, but I see so many people out there, especially leaders in this workplace, embody what resilience really is. And so I dedicated my career to studying those attributes in people. And I literally love it every single day. I get up and I get to go to work and I get to teach people how to work within their strengths. No better job than that. Right? No better job than that. And so I'm so happy to introduce you to positive psychology if you've never, ever heard of it before, because it is something that has literally transformed my entire life. I use it on myself. I use it on my kids. There's so many things that I use it for because it can be used in so many different ways. So let's get a little bit deeper as it pertains to positive psychology. So if you're just now joining me, I told you that positive psychology is the study of what goes right with you versus what goes wrong with you. The study of how life is worth living, right? The study, the focus on your strengths instead of your weaknesses. That's what it is. So when you get deeper into positive psychology, you may hear a terminology called PERMA. So now we have PERMA plus. So that's PERMA. It's an acronym. PERMA, PERMA. And I'm about to tell you what that stands for. This is the scientific study of well-being and happiness, right? This is literally the scientific study of all the things that brings us well-being in our life and what brings us happiness. And when I learned about PERMA, I mean, any one of the attributes of PERMA, you can take it and spend like, I don't know, days, weeks, months on just studying that one attribute. But as a whole, it is so absolutely beautiful. So first of all, the P in PERMA is for positive emotions. So that's where the science of happiness comes from. Joy, excitement, elatement, all those things go into those emotions, those positive emotions. And so when it comes to happiness, right, the true meaning of happiness is the fact that you find and you experience more happy emotions in your life than you do negative, right? We're always going to experience negative emotions, y'all, because guess what? I'll say it again. Life continues to happen and it's going to continue to happen. And with life, there's good and there's bad, right? So you're bound to have some bad days in your life. But when we're talking about happiness, right? Because you can say, I'm happy right now, because all of us experience moments of happiness, right? But there's a difference between experiencing moments of happiness and actually being a happy person. And when you talk about being a happy person, what that means is that you experience more times of these positive emotions in your life than you do negatives, right? Overall, right? As a feeling, but you also have a sense of meaning and purpose in your life. So it's a couple thing. Like you experience this joy, this happiness in your life, but it is also coupled that you understand that you matter, that you mean something in the world. You know what your purpose is, or you know that you were placed on earth to do some amazing things. That is true happiness. And that is why I love absolutely studying happiness in life, because the way that I grew up was not all great, right? It wasn't all great, but I can also remember there were some really happy times. And I remember that I had this hope and this optimism and this resilience about myself to understand that I have meaning and purpose in my life. And so overall, I'm a happy person because I understand that. So about yourself, you can kind of judge it to see if you have more happy days than not, and if you have this sense of purpose and meaning in your life, right? So that's the P. It stands for positive emotions. The E stands for engagement, meaning there's a word called flow, right? In the positive psychology world, there's a word called flow. And his name is Professor Set Me High. It's a long word, but he actually termed the term flow, and that means you are so super engaged, right? You're so engaged in what you're doing that you almost lose track of time. You are absorbed in what you're doing. Let me ask you, when the last time were you in a state of flow? And if you were in a state of flow, what was you doing? That's what you need to know. What were you doing the last time you were in a state of flow? Because that tells you something. That then tells you that whatever you were doing is probably something that you're super passionate about, so much so that you lose track of time. That is engagement, right? And we all want to get there at some point in our life. Now, a lot of times you might not be able to get to engagement on your day job. I get that. I understand it. But what are you doing outside of your day job that's going to provide you with that fulfillment and that satisfaction in your life? Because I honestly think that you need that. If you can't get that full fulfillment in your day job, you got to have something outside, whether it's volunteer work, a side business, something. You need to try to, figure that out. All right. So the R is for relationships, my favorite, because we are relational people. You can't survive without relationships. I mean, you literally cannot. We are born to have relationships. They've done studies and just things have happened to young babies in different countries where they were not loved and cared for and held and coddled as a child, and they just literally died. Right? They just died because we are relational people. But what I've seen, especially during the pandemic, is that we've lost track of relationships. We've lost track of reaching out to people. We've lost track of really having real, true, honest conversations. And we think that because people are strong, that they don't necessarily need or need relationships. And it's false. It's false. We all need relationships, whether it's intimate relationships, platonic relationships, friend relationships, mother, daughter, son, all that kind of stuff. Relationships are needed. And when it comes to the relationship in PERMA, it's your ability to really create meaningful relationships in your life that also lead to happiness, right? I'm so grateful for my husband, Jamil, my babies, Tamazie, Mackenzie, and Trey, my sister, April. I'm just so grateful for all the relationships that I have in my life, because without these people in my life, it wouldn't be as fulfilling. And that's the truth, right? That's the truth. So we have M is meaning, purpose and meaning, right? Like, the meaning of life is to really figure out what your purpose is, and the purpose of life is to give it away, right? Once you figure out what it is, what your purpose is, then the meaning is for you to give that away, right? I think that was Picasso who actually said that. And I love that statement so much because it's so true. We all have purpose and meaning and all of that in our life. And we absolutely need to figure that out for ourselves. And so I went on a whole journey of figuring out what that purpose is and what that meaning is in my life. And I'm so glad that I figured it out. Part of it is me being here with you and really, having these conversations and sharing my knowledge with you. That's part of what I do in my life. And it's so necessary and it's so needed. So, and then the A is accomplishment. Like, if you've ever seen, I'm going to take y'all back to Psychology 101, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and self-actualization is at the top, which is accomplishment. It's a basic human need that we need to achieve. We have to achieve. We have to be on the level where we achieve in our life, that we create some kind of success in our life. And that's what this one is all about. But what I love now is that they've also added a plus to the end of PERMA, which makes so much sense to me, because when I was doing my research for my PhD, I talked all about positive psychology coaching and its influence on women in leadership. And that really mattered to me a whole lot. And so I felt like there was some things that were missing, like the health part and all that kind of stuff. And so, but they've added it, y'all. So the plus stands for optimism, physical activity, nutrition, and sleep. All of which you need, right? Like, you got to be optimistic. You got to have that physical activity in your life, nutrition, and you have to absolutely have that sleep. And I mean, I could go into detail, but all of these things create well-being and happiness in your life. And I think that it's super important for us to realize this, and to make sure that we begin living a life that is rooted in positive psychology, because it can actually absolutely change your life. And so I'm going to give you, before we hop off, just a couple ways you can actually utilize this and and really begin to take these things and, put them in your life and see if they work for you. So first of all, I want you to begin building real relationships. Right now is a time we're coming out, out of COVID. Well, people say we're out of COVID, right? We're going back in person. We're really getting back to the way things used to be. And so hopefully right now you can begin building relationships. I've seen several posts on like social media and stuff. There's a lot of, breakups and relationships that have been torn throughout the whole COVID, this time period. And for that, I'm like super sorry. And I know those things happen for different reasons in our lives, but right now is the time to build real relationships if you can. Like pick up the phone, call somebody who you might have not heard from in a long time, who you think is strong, who probably really need to hear from you. Pick up the phone, start building some real relationships. And when you're in corporate America, take somebody out to lunch, even if it's a coffee chat over Zoom, whatever. Start to get to know people, because this is what is standing in the way between organizations having great cultures and organizations just having cultures that just don't work, right? It's relationships. Number 2 is practice kindness. There are so many ways for you to do that, right? There are so many things out there, and so many people who need stuff, and just a good hello. It's simple for some people. Monetary gains, giving people food, whatever. There's so many ways that you can practice kindness, but it is scientifically proven if you practice kindness. And the next one is practice gratitude. Really saying I'm thank you. Thank you are really being thankful for what you actually have in your life. That is scientifically proven to boost your happiness and to boost your overall well-being in your life. And so practice kindness, practice gratitude. One way to practice gratitude is called 3 good things. And so over the next week at least, write down 3 good things that happened to you in your day, and then track those. Because what it's going to have you do is start thinking more positive than you do negative. Because the negative gonna be there. We can think of those things super easy when they happen to us. But those 3 good things, those 3 positive things, sometimes it be a stretch and a struggle. And it doesn't have to be anything big or anything like that. Like you can just 3 good things. Like today, my kids we're in Georgia, y'all, and kids are already out of school. And so I'm gonna go take my kids to lunch. We're gonna go have lunch together. And we haven't done, lunch out like together in quite some time, especially on a weekday. So that's going to be one of my good things I know that I'm going to do even just today. But try it. I promise you, it absolutely works. And then practice eating healthy and moving. Like that's just a recipe for success. I get up Monday through Friday and I work out. Even if I got 5 minutes, I'm doing something. It might even be a stretch. I'm doing something. The eating, I got a little bit more work to do on the eating part, but I'm working on it. And so my goal when it comes to eating healthy is to have more eating healthy days than I not, right? And so that's my goal, is to eat healthier more than I don't. And so if you do that, I promise you, it's going to change some things for you. And then lastly, get some good sleep. Woo-wee. I'm preaching to the choir, which is all the way me, right? When it comes to getting good sleep, because I can stay up at night. I can, but I love to get up early in the sense that I get so much done. But you can't go to sleep late and get up early. I know I'm talking to somebody. You can't go to sleep late and get up early and think you're going to be okay for the long haul. It's going to eventually catch up to you. So what you need to do is either go to sleep early and then you can get up early, or you can go to sleep later, but you have to get up later. But you do need to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And so I even have an alarm clock on my clock to tell me when I need to get in the bed. Do I listen to it always? No. But am I trying? Yes. And we are all a work in progress, right? We're all a work in progress. And that's what I love about life, because when it comes to positive psychology, it doesn't say that you have to be all good, right? we're always a work in progress. No matter what level we get, there's always things that we can improve. But my goal is to enjoy the journey, and using these things that positive psychology has brought to my life allows me to do just that, is to enjoy the journey and to really figure out how to create my own happiness. So I hope you enjoyed today. It was fun for me. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for being here. And listen, if you think that this is something that would resonate with somebody else, share it. Share it for a friend, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying to get the knowledge out there so that it can help change people's lives. Well, thank y'all so much. I'm excited to have been with you today, and I can't wait to be with you next week. Take care.